Hey, what's going on everybody? Commander Crane here, and we are back with a standard deck tech, and today we're going to be talking about budget mono black rats. I'm very excited to bring this list to you. As always, before we hop into the video, let me know in the comment section below at the end, what do you think about the list? Is there any card that I should have included that I did not? And also let me know, what do you think are the best options if you'd like to upgrade this over time, whether or not it's adding new colors or adding different cards, that kind of thing. Just let me know in the comment section below. So, okay, a little bit of backstory. So obviously standard is starting to get somewhat popular again. Wizards of the Coast is, well, borderline, making stores play standard at their local game store, and a lot of people are interested in getting into the format. And I know a lot of people look at the format, they're like, oh my gosh, like $80 shield grids and all these crazy expensive cards. So over the next probably couple weeks here, I'm going to be sharing a lot of different standard decks that you could play at your local game store. Most of these deck lists are going to probably cost around the $30 to $50 range for the most part. So it's just a really entry-level deck with a ton of room to upgrade. It's just if you want to just get in the door and start playing some standard. So let's go and hop into the list here. All right, so rats. Our two main one drops that we're playing here are 4 Gnawing Vermin and 4 Okiba Reckoner Raid. So Gnawing Vermin is a pretty solid rat. Enters target player mills 2 cards. When it dies, target creature you don't control gets -1/-1 until end of turn. So with the mill, it's not really relevant for us for the most part for the mill. So most of the time, just mill your opponent unless they're playing a graveyard synergy deck. If they are, just mill us. It's target player, so you can mill yourself. I just wanted to mention that. Don't mill them if they are doing like a collect evidence deck or anything like that. Just wanted to mention that. So Okiba Reckoner Raid. So on the front side, you're like, what? This isn't a rat. Chapter 1 and 2, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Well, when it transforms, it turns into Nezumi Road Captain, which is a rat, which is pretty sweet. 2/2 with Menace, and then vehicles you control have Menace. Spoiler alert, we're not playing any vehicles in this deck, but it's a 2/2 with Menace. It's just a pretty solid stat line overall. And then we're also playing 4 Hopeless Nightmares. So for those who have been playing Magic for a while, most of you know that rats are kind of known for disrupting the opponent, making them discard cards. And this deck is definitely no exception to that. I really like Hopeless Nightmare. It's just a really solid rate. 1 black, enters the battlefield. Each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. And then when it's put into a graveyard from the battlefield, scry 2. And then 2 and a black, sacrifice Hopeless Nightmare. The card's just really good. Extremely good rate. Play it turn 1, play it turn 2, 3, whatever. It's still just really, really good. So definitely a big fan of Hopeless Nightmare. Next slide here is some of our really strong 2-drops. So continuing the discard, we're playing 4 Nezumi Informant. It's essentially just the new 1/1 for 2 rat that makes our opponent discard a card. It's pretty good overall. Definitely a big fan of it. Essentially is just like Burglar Rat for the most part. Then we're also playing 3 Blight Belly Rat, 2/2 for 2, Toxic 1, and then when it dies, Proliferate. So Toxic is in this deck a decent amount. There's obviously there's a card that's featured in the deck that's going to help our rats with the poison. We're not going to poison our opponent out very often, but it is something that can happen, and I really do like Blight Belly Rat though. I think the card is just a pretty solid rate overall. Then we're also playing 4 Tangled Colony, one of my favorite cards in the deck. 3/2 for 2, it can't block. When it dies, create X 1/1 black rat creature tokens with this creature can't block, where X is the amount of damage dealt to it this turn. So definitely a lot of good things we can do here. I would say probably its worst rate for the most part is, assuming it's being dealt damage, is our opponent play with fires it, and then we get 2 1/1 rats, which is really not a bad exchange. But hey, maybe there's some situations where we're just sending it at a shield grid, here, just block it, block us, go ahead, block us, and then we get 4 rats, which is pretty sweet. So I'm definitely just a really big fan of Tangled Colony in general. Next slide here, we have some of our strong 3-drops. We're playing 2 Lord Skitter's Butcher, 2/3 for 3. When it enters, make a 1/1 rat. Or you may sacrifice another creature. If you do scry 2, then draw a card. Or creatures you control gain Menace until end of turn. All 3 really good rates depending on where we're at in the game overall. Definitely a big fan of Lord Skitter's Butcher. And then obviously, since we're playing the Butcher, we have to play Lord Skitter Sewer King as well. 3/3 for 3. Whenever another rat enters the battlefield under your control, exile up to 1 target card from an opponent's graveyard. And then at the beginning of your combat, on your turn, create a 1/1 black rat creature token with this creature can't block. So essentially, it's like a Goblin Rebel Master, and then we exile cards from a graveyard. So if our opponent's playing anything graveyard related, we just go and hate on that graveyard. Lord Skidder is extremely strong. It sees a lot of play in Standard right now, and in this deck, it's even better just because of all the synergies that we get. And then we're also playing 4 Karu Monix, the Rat King. 3/3 for 3 with Toxic 1. All the rats have Toxic 1. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal any number of rat cards from among them and put them in your hand, and put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Carmonix, very strong, giving our other rats Toxic 1, which is kind of the main way that we might poison out our opponent. Again, it's not going to happen very often, but it is something that can happen, so you got to keep that in mind a little bit with the Toxic. You should be keeping track of this for sure, even if it's like, whatever, it's just 2 poison, and all of a sudden our opponent's gaining life with like Wandering Emperors or something like that, and then you actually poison them out. So just make sure to keep track of that, just something to keep in mind. So our last slide here is essentially just some of our removal that we're playing. We're playing 4 Go for the Throat and 2 Shieldred's Edict. Go for the Throat, arguably the best removal spell in the format right now, especially in black. Pretty much kills everything for the most part, other than like some of the Sooners or, you know, some of the vehicles running around. It kills pretty much everything. It's also been reprinted like 1,000 times. Chances are, if you've been playing for a while, you probably have some old Go for the Throats laying around. The card is extremely strong. Then we're also playing 2 Shieldred's Edict, another really strong removal spell in the format. You choose one. Each opponent sacrifice a non-token creature, a creature token, or a planeswalker card is definitely very, very strong. Definitely a big fan of it. So that's our entire main board. Let's go and hop into the lands here though real quick. So we're playing 4 Field of Ruin and 4 the Dross Pits as our non-basic lands. Field of Ruin is extremely strong. There's a ton of man lands going around in the format right now, so that's why we're playing 4 Field of Ruins. You can also play Demolition Field. It's pretty much the exact same thing. I just chose Field of Ruin just because it's been around longer, and I really, really like Field of Ruin. Dross Pits is just another solid land. You know, we don't need to be playing, 17 basic lands in this deck. I just figured, why not? It's a tap land. Later on in the game, we just cash it in to draw a card. Just a solid card overall. And then as our spacey basic land of the day, we're playing 13 Swamps. And the reason I'm playing this, some of you might have caught onto it already. We always try to play a land that kind of fits the theme of the deck. And the flavor text on the swamp says, as you trudge through the sewers of Baldur's Gate, it dawns on you, where are all the rats? So that's obviously why we're playing this cool swamp. So I think this is one of the most flavorful basic lands that we've ever featured here on the channel. Definitely a big fan of this swamp. So, okay, let's go and hop into the sideboarding plan as well as some upgrade options, and then that'll be the end of the video. So sideboarding is pretty simple. We're going to want a little bit of life gain just because there is a lot of aggro in this format right now. There's some good removal spells that help gain life. There's just some regular cards that help you gain life that aren't even removing per se. You're definitely going to want some life gain spells in the deck, as well as we're going to want some extra removal cards like Cut Down is really, really good. Again, I'm forgetting the name of it. It's like Parasitic Grasp, I believe, is the one where it's like 3 to a creature and you gain 3 life. That card's very, very strong. You could also play like The End, for instance. There's definitely a lot of fantastic removal in this format, and you're definitely going to want to be packing some more. We're also going to want some discard spells. I'm currently playing 4 Duress. I think that's currently the best option, at least for, regular discard spells. But again, there's a ton of different ones in this format. You're definitely going to want to be featuring some in your sideboard. But if you want to know exactly what I'm playing, the link for the deck list is in the description below, so you can check out exactly what I'm playing. And then the last thing we have to talk about is the upgrade options, which is pretty simple. You'll want to upgrade the utility lands. There's a lot of fantastic lands in this format that you could play. Obviously, like Cavernous Souls is really, really good, but don't feel like you have to, have Cavernous Souls to be able to play this deck, because obviously you do not. Virtue of Persistence is also a really good removal spell in the format, and I highly suggest putting it in your deck if you happen to have some of those laying around. The last thing I wanted to mention is you could also play Rakdos Rats. The reason I didn't feature it is because I wanted to keep the deck cheap. Don't have to worry about any dual lands or anything like that. But if you want to definitely power up the deck, Rakdos Rats is a very, very solid deck. There's a ton of red cards that have to do with like rats. There's like the 1X spell. It's like make X 1/1 rats. And obviously they can't block, but then your creatures get haste until end of turn. So it's basically just like a weird fireball, that kind of thing. There's definitely a lot of strong red cards in rats that were printed in Wilds of Eldraine. So I would definitely consider maybe playing Rakdos Rats if you're not looking to be playing on a budget. So, well, that takes us to the end of the video. Thanks everybody for watching. Let me know in the comment section below, what do you think about the list? Is there a card that I didn't include that definitely should have been in the deck? Just let me know in the comment section. So, I'm Commander Crane. Thanks for watching this video, and I'll catch you in the next one.